Hey everyone, this is Jeannie, and I'm part of the Spread Joy Not Germs blog hop today. We have a ton of crafters and companies that are sharing their projects. There will be a ton of prizes, and all you need to do is stop by and leave a comment on the blogs. I'll leave my blog information down in the description bar so you can hop along at your leisure. I believe there are about 150 projects, so it's a huge blog hop. Don't feel like you have to go to every single one, but it'll just give you something to do while we're sheltering in place. For today's card, I am focusing on Trinity Stamps Marshmallow Alpha Dies with Ink on 3's Atelier inks on a piece of watercolor paper. I'm using Canson XL watercolor paper that I've taped down to my glass mat. And I have the Ink on 3 inks in this watercolor palette just because it's easier. The re-inkers are little droplets that you can just drop into the watercolor palette and it makes it easier. For me, I like putting it into a watercolor palette because I don't always use all the ink that I pour out, so I don't want to waste it. So I just keep this aside and it stays safe and I can pick it up the next time I want to use it. As you can see, I am creating a rainbow panel, and this piece of paper is a lot larger than an A2 panel, and I realized this after I go in with my first layer. So the orange and the yellow are going to have a hard time making it onto that panel just because I spread out the colors so much. So I try to go ahead and fix this and condense the areas of color that the orange and yellow are in, and this will lead me to muting the entire panel generally. So as you can see, the watercolors are very bright and vibrant, and because I go in and play around with this so much, it kind of ends up muting it down, which is okay because I actually ended up really liking how it turned out. For all watercolor panels that I create, I usually will go in and build up the layers. For these inks, I realized that I just don't have to. If I wanted that bright rainbow color and I had painted it as planned, I could have left it as is and it would have been fine, bright, and super pretty. Because I wanted to condense it down a little bit more so I can fit in that orange and yellow into my A2 card panel, I end up blending it out where it kind of muted down the colors and it turned out really pretty still. So this, I believe, is where I ended up and I liked it. I do go in with Ink on 3's Pixie Dust, which is basically liquid glitter. I put it directly on my glass mat and I paint it on using that flat brush, and I end up with a very glittery rainbow panel that is perfect because I'll be using it with dies. And the alpha dies are so simple and they're bold and it stands out perfectly on its own against this crazy pattern. So I will remove all the purple tape and you can see the glitter. I'll hold it up and it's just super glittery and pretty. So for the panel, I'm trimming it down to an A2 card and trying to keep as much of that yellow as possible. So I have some yellow at the bottom and I have a little yellow at the top, but mostly orange. It takes up a large majority of the top portion, which I end up trimming down because I don't want too much of one color and it looks like a lot of orange here. But later on, I'll trim it down even a little bit more so all the colors are a little bit more even. For the Trinity Stamps Marshmallow Alpha Dies, I am obsessed. I love alpha dies generally. I love fonts, and so anytime I see something different, I kind of have to have it. For these dies, they're about 1.5 inches tall, which are pretty large, and I decided to die cut them out of black cardstock because I think it'll stand out against that rainbow pattern. You'll see later on some white die cuts that I tried out too. I always question myself and second guess myself and always die cut things out of different colored cardstock just to see like what works best. And for this card, I think that the black just really pops against it. So I originally had a ton of ideas for this card, and I was going to use that heart die cut to create a random background and do some die cut inlay and create a 2-for-1 card. But I ended up going very simple, and it was so simple. It was just one heart, not like a ton. And I also grabbed Trinity Stamps, a sentiment for almost everything stamp set, which had this I miss you sentiment that's perfect for this card. I wanted a card that I could send out to a friend during this time, and the card will say hello, I miss you, and I think that that's just absolutely perfect. So I trimmed down that panel a little bit more so the orange was a little bit more even with the rest of the colors, and I'm matting it on black cardstock, and it really ties in with the hello sentiment. So I'm using my T ruler and lining everything up, and I'll just glue it directly onto the card panel. This is a very simple card. Once you get that watercoloring down and it's dry, I just go ahead and glue it directly down. I start in the middle because I thought that if I start in the middle, the sentiment would be even on the card because, 5 letters. If you start in the middle, then you only have 2 more on each side. But when I put it down, it's still aligned more left. And that's okay because I just go in with my paper trimmer and trim it down a little bit more. I noticed it here, and that's when I'm like, nope, I need to trim this down a little bit more because it's just not centered. So I tend to do that a lot with a lot of my sentiments, and it's just usually it's fixable, and here it was easy to fix. So I just trim it down, and then it looks fine because I have a full black border around this card panel. I'll go ahead and glue down that heart that I cut out of silver cardstock, and I'll pop that I miss you sentiment on foam squares and put it right over that heart. And I think that this card is just very simple and an easy card to send out to anyone, whether it's a family member or a friend. It works and it's just perfect. Especially now, since we're sheltering in place, I haven't seen anyone live in person. I've only seen them virtually. That sometimes a card through snail mail is kind of awesome to get. I've gotten a few cards recently and it's been pretty awesome. So to finish off this card, I'm adding a few embellishments. I believe that these are Trinity Stamps unicorn tears, and they're perfect because they're not colored. It's iridescent, and it's perfect for a rainbow card. It just adds that little pop that it needs. It doesn't need any more color because you have enough with the background. And it definitely doesn't need any more glitter because the pixie dust took care of that. So this card is what I came up with. I hope it helps brighten your day. I hope you're enjoying the projects that you've been seeing. And I hope that you're able to win a prize just by leaving a comment. So I'll adhere this card panel to my card base, and the card is complete and ready to be sent out. I hope you're having a great day, enjoying the projects, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.